There is a place in your home, a quiet, ordinary place. You pass by it every day. You may have even placed your rosary there, thinking it was safe. But Padre Pio warned, even a blessed object can lose its power when kept in a place touched by darkness. And when that happens, not only is the protection gone, but something else may begin to grow in its place. At the end of this message, there will be a prayer, a powerful act of rededication. Don't miss it. Read it aloud. Let it bless your home. Stay with me until the end. Most Catholics believe that once a rosary is blessed, it carries permanent spiritual protection, no matter where it is kept. But Padre Pio taught that even holy objects must be treated with reverence, or they risk becoming spiritually ineffective. The mistake lies not in owning the rosary, but in forgetting what it represents. A rosary stored in a cluttered drawer, buried beneath tangled cords and coins, loses its sacred prominence. When it is tossed into a purse filled with cosmetics, receipts and distractions, its purpose begins to fade from the mind. When it sits on a nightstand surrounded by secular books, gossip magazines, or under the shadow of a screen constantly playing entertainment, it becomes silent. Padre Pio warned that a rosary should never be placed in a space where disorder, vanity, or spiritual negligence reside. The rosary is not a decoration, not a casual accessory, and certainly not a forgotten token. It is a weapon of grace. But when this weapon is left in places where prayer is absent and worldly noise dominates, it is no longer ready for battle. Worse yet, the demonic thrives in such subtle neglect. When sacred items are left in spiritually polluted spaces, they do not bring light. They become ignored relics surrounded by shadows. Many Catholics keep rosaries in glove compartments, desk drawers, pockets, or boxes in the attic. Some have multiple rosaries, all scattered and unused. The presence of the object alone is not enough. Grace flows through use, through intention, through prayer. Padre Pio was clear. The rosary should be close to the heart and involved in the daily rhythm of life. When a rosary becomes merely symbolic, something to show or carry without devotion, it stops acting as a spiritual barrier. Instead, it becomes something the devil laughs at, a weapon never drawn, a prayer never said. The enemy doesn't fear the beads. He fears what happens when those beads are kissed, held, and prayed through with love. A rosary kept near temptation, impurity, or vanity is spiritually suffocated. Not because God's power is weak, but because man's reverence fades. And when reverence fades, so does grace. That is the mistake of millions, treating the rosary as sacred in theory, but casual in practice. A rosary should not be buried in places of disorder or left idle in rooms where God is forgotten. Every Catholic must ask themselves, if the Virgin Mary walked into this room right now, would she find the rosary honored or neglected? Would she see it lying in a drawer filled with distractions, or resting near a candle, quietly waiting to be prayed? The rosary longs to return to its rightful place, not hidden but lifted, not ignored but honored. Its silence in the wrong place speaks louder than we think. The rosary is not just an object, it is a spiritual channel, a living link between the soul and heaven. When Padre Pio spoke of the rosary, he described it as a sword against evil, a lifeline in times of darkness, and a shield for the faithful. But like any powerful instrument, it responds to the environment around it. A holy object does not operate in a vacuum. Its grace interacts with the atmosphere in which it is placed. When the atmosphere is one of prayer, silence, and reverence, the rosary thrives. But when it is surrounded by noise, disorder, and spiritual apathy, its presence becomes muted. Spiritual power is not about superstition or magical thinking. It is about intention and alignment. The rosary, while blessed, still requires the cooperation of the heart. If kept in a place that reflects distraction or sin, it begins to take on that tone. Padre Pio believed that where an object rests physically reveals where it rests spiritually in the life of the believer. A rosary that lies forgotten under clothes, in dusty drawers, or among worldly goods has been demoted from weapon to ornament, and ornaments do not fight back against darkness. There is also a deeper principle at work, one that the Church Fathers and mystics have long understood. Grace is relational. It flows most fully where there is honor, order, and love. When a sacred object is surrounded by purity, it magnifies. Grace, when it is neglected or placed among things that carry unclean energy, such as lustful media, angry music, or occult symbols, it cannot radiate what it was made to give. The rosary does not lose its inherent blessing, but the environment suffocates its effect. Darkness cannot touch the rosary itself, but it can surround it and render it unused. Even more importantly, demons are not impressed by the mere presence of holy items. They recognize when something is truly part of a soul's spiritual life, and when it has become a forgotten token. The enemy fears a prayed rosary, not a dusty one. Padre Pio taught that demons flee not from the object alone, but from the living faith that activates it. A rosary kept in spiritual silence becomes spiritually silent itself. It waits, but it does not speak. It lies there, but it does not protect. This is why the Church teaches that sacramentals like the rosary must be used, not just owned. Their power is not automatic, it is participatory. A home may have dozens of rosaries, but if none are prayed, if none are treated with honor, their presence becomes background noise. They blend in with the furniture, becoming invisible both to the eye and to the spirit. Padre Pio saw that the heart of the faithful must make a place for the rosary, not only in their pocket or shelf, but in the spiritual climate of their home. When the rosary is placed where there is reverence, when it is treated as a vessel of grace and a companion in prayer, it becomes a light in the room, a guardian, a presence that resists the shadows. But when it is placed without thought, or worse, in places where God is mocked or forgotten, it is not destroyed, it is simply ignored. And that silence, that neglect, is what opens the door to other influences. In the end, it is not the place itself that matters most. It is what that place represents. A holy object in a holy place draws heaven near. A holy object in a godless space falls asleep. The rosary reflects the soul of the one who owns it. If that soul is alert, prayerful, and pure, then even a single rosary can light up a house. But if that soul is indifferent, careless, or distracted, the rosary will wait in silence, just as heaven waits for us to remember. To restore the grace and power of the rosary, Padre Pio taught that reverence must begin with placement. The rosary should be kept in a place of prayer, near a crucifix, beside a candle, or next to a Bible, never in a drawer with random items, never mixed with distractions. Sacred things belong in sacred spaces. When the rosary rests in a clean, prayerful environment, it absorbs that atmosphere and becomes a silent witness to faith. Next, the rosary must be touched daily. Even if one cannot pray it in full, fingers should find the beads each day. A brief touch, a kiss, or a whispered "Hail Mary" is enough to stir the spiritual bond. When the rosary is touched, heaven is remembered. And when heaven is remembered, grace flows. Padre Pio urged that the rosary should not be stored, but lived with. It should not be hidden away, but visible. Not for show, but for access. Let it be on a table, on a bedside, or worn close to the heart. Its presence is not decoration. It is a silent prayer in the room. Let it interrupt the day and invite the soul to pause. If the rosary has been neglected, rededicate it. This doesn't require re-blessing. It requires intention. Place it before an image of Our Lady. Say a prayer of renewal. Sprinkle it with holy water if you can. This act reawakens its spiritual connection. The rosary doesn't forget, but it waits. Lastly, make the rosary part of the home's spiritual rhythm. Let it be seen by children, noticed by guests, and used often. It should not be kept in places of darkness or disorder, but in corners where light dwells. By doing this, the rosary once again becomes a bridge to heaven, a constant reminder that grace is near if we make room for it. Now is the time to act. The rosary that once lay forgotten in a drawer, lost among daily clutter, is waiting to be found again. Padre Pio did not warn out of fear, but out of love, for he knew that many Catholics possess the tools of grace without knowing how to use them. The rosary is not meant to sleep in silence. It is meant to speak, to shine, to protect, and that begins the moment it is returned to its rightful place, physically and spiritually. Let the faithful walk through their homes today and find where the rosary lies. Let them lift it gently, not with guilt, but with renewed purpose. Let them carry it to a place of peace, and let that place become a corner of light. There is no need for shame if it has been forgotten. What matters is that it is remembered now. Heaven waits for even the smallest turn of the heart. This simple act, finding, honoring, and praying with the rosary again, can change the atmosphere of a home. A room that was once filled with noise or distraction becomes quiet. A restless night becomes calm. An anxious heart finds focus. These are not fantasies. These are the fruits of restoring spiritual order, beginning with the smallest of things, where a rosary is kept. Padre Pio believed that when Catholics returned to the rosary, they returned to Mary. And when they returned to Mary, they returned to the safest place on earth, the heart of her Son. That is why this message ends not with fear, but with an invitation. Tonight, as the home grows quiet and the day draws to a close, let the rosary be lifted once more. Light a candle if you can, hold the beads in your hand, and say these words, not only with your mouth but with your heart. Mother of God, I take up this rosary again. Let no darkness share the space where your light dwells. Let my home, my hands, and my heart be worthy of this weapon. Let this prayer be the turning point. Let it be a seal over the door of the home, a shield over the bed, a whisper that echoes into heaven. The rosary is not just an object, it is a lifeline. And now that it has been remembered, it will not be silent again.